Hey everyone, it's me already does it, Conor Sheet. I'm your anthropologist and sociologist. Please hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel, become a member of the channel. Donate the links below. If you want to book a session with me or one more consultation, please check the fees and instructions in the description box below. Check my novels on Amazon, Barnes Noble, wherever you can find them. Above all, listen well to this video, pray about it afterwards, and where the knowledge applies in your life, apply this knowledge to glorify your Heavenly Father. Thank you. All right. Some of you, now this message does not apply to every one of you, only to some of you. To whom it applies, okay? Some of you are frustrated. You're wondering why there is no improvement in your life. You wonder why you keep going around in circles, or why you can't escape that one cycle, whatever the cycle is, whether it's an addiction, whether it's failure keeps haunting you, or whether it's some health issue, whatever. You are thinking, I'm a believer, I confess Christ, I'm not involved in any sinful lifestyle, I'm not harming anyone, and if I'm ever wrong, I apologize, I consider other people. So you're doing what's right. You also fast and pray intensely, sometimes for hours long, exhausting yourself out of desperation. So you're actually desperately wondering what the hell goes on. You're casting out evil spirits regularly. You're sending fire, holy fire and evil spirits. Okay, listen. I'm not saying that anything you're doing right now, I mean the fast and the prayer, sending holy fire to burn down the evil spirits, and looking at yourself, self-reflecting, apologizing when you're wrong. Listen, it's not what you're doing that's holding you back. You think it's something you're doing. And that's why you get so frustrated thinking, what the heck am I doing wrong? Listen, it's not what you're doing that's holding you back. It's not what you're doing that's endangering you. Let me tell you what is endangering you, and let me tell you what's holding you back. Because whatever holds you back also endangers you. And when you are endangered, that danger also spill over to other people around you. So you're indirectly holding yourself, and you're indirectly holding others back too. You're holding yourself back directly and indirectly holding others back too. And by that, you also are endangering others in the long run. So I'm going to tell you straight up what it is you're not doing. And it's something we are commanded to do. You know, various times in the Bible says that we shouldn't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. This should also apply to a believer that remains in darkness. But the Bible is also more specific about the type of unbelievers, or the type of believers even, who are in darkness that you should avoid at all costs, as far depends on you, as much as possible. Now, I'm going with you to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 10. It reads, "Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yes, strife and reproach shall cease." Let me read that one more time. As a matter of fact, I'm going to the New King James Version right now, in which it's written down in a more modern English that many people today can understand easier. Okay? So it's still the same English language, but it's a more modern way of saying it. It says in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 10, "Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yes, strife and reproach shall cease." Okay, that's King James Version. I'll go to the New King James Version. It says, "Cast out the scoffer, and contention will leave. Yes, strife and reproach will cease." Now, what is going on here? Let's go to Psalms chapter 1. Okay, let me go there very quickly with you. I'm going to the King James Version right now. And let's read. "Blessed is the man." This also applies to women, by the way. So, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night." The law refers to the will of God. Well, actually, that means both the two laws of God: love God only, and then love you, and with the love of God, you love your neighbor as yourself. And love God only is a simplified way of saying love the Lord thy God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. So you love God alone. You put all human affection on Heavenly Father. In return, you get the love of God. You get the love of God, you love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the two laws of the Heavenly Father. And apart from that, you have God's guidance for your daily life. So someone who's fully devoted to following God's guidance for their life, they'll be well off. And one thing about such people is they don't walk in the counsel of ungodly. So they're very cautious of taking advice from the world, nor stand in the way of sinners. So they are in the world, but of the world. So they watch out with the way they do things in life. Nor sit in the seat of the scornful. This is what I'm going to focus on. The seat of the scornful. A scornful individual is someone who's offended, and out of pain, they lash out at everyone. That's someone that's scornful. All right? Now we go back and read in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 10. It said over there, cast out the scorner, and content shall go out. Yes, strife and reproach shall cease. So it's quite clear over here. A scornful human being is an offended human being, and out of pain, they lash out at others to get relief. So instead of dealing with the emotional and mental injury by going to therapy and recovery or working on themselves, they just want to pass on the pain to others, while at the same time they claim they're innocent. They always blame the other individual for how they act. It's one thing when someone is injured emotionally, mentally, and they malfunction, and after they apologize how they malfunction other people, that's one thing. That's an individual that owns up their situation and admits they're injured. It's irrelevant who injured them, because going after an individual injured them will not undo their injury. They need to admit they've been injured, they need help. I mean, in real life out there, if you've been stabbed in the streets, are you going to chase the one that stabbed you, or are you going to call an ambulance, so tell people to call the ambulance for you? A coach can call the ambulance. Imagine being stabbed, even shot in the streets, and start running after the individual that's shot you or stabbed you. I mean, what the heck? You don't do that. Well, when it comes to the spirit world, or when it comes to the non-material, that's exactly what a lot of people do. Not all people, a lot of people do that. They become scornful. They do not want to admit being damaged. And because they insist on not, because they vowed never to admit how damaged you are, that's why anytime the unrest develops in them, they quickly instantly look for an outlet so that others don't see how dysfunctional they are. Or they always blame someone else for the dysfunction so that nobody will tell them, but why aren't you doing something about it? Anyway, scornful people. Scornful people are bitter, resentful humans. And they're filled with unrest. And everywhere they go, they drop that unrest. They don't argue everywhere. They don't cause fights everywhere. They don't break stuff everywhere. They don't do vandalism everywhere. The thing is, their very presence alone carries this toxic weight with them. And their very presence alone slows things down. Now, a lot of scoffers indeed do argue, do fight, and do commit vandalism, all of that. However, often they are arrested by the police, and that will teach them not to do it again. And because a lot of them don't want a criminal record, they don't go off directly in your face, but they will do it behind your back, or some do witchcraft like magic on you just to get to you, or they will just murmur behind your back very, very, very harshly. Or if they know that a lot of people also don't like you over there, they feel more confident to say to your face and act out in your face. They're ready to become violent towards you. Why? It has nothing to do with you. They have their unrest that they are holding on to. Yes, it's not the injury you're holding on to. The injury happened. Thing is, they're still alive. So if they just look off, if they just consider themselves and take a little bit more, and kind of take a bit more care for themselves, they would actually be around better people and they would recover. But the thing is, the injury happened, whether it was betrayal, whether it was child abuse, or it's not always something from the childhood that was very traumatic. Sometimes it's just, as a grown individual, they were done dirty, or people just lied to them, or they felt disappointed. It wasn't that someone actually did them dirty. They just had an expectation based on society taught them, and now that life turned out differently. Yeah, society taught them the wrong way, but on the other hand, as an adult, they could have thought, let me reflect on what I was taught. So instead of admitting their own wrong, from not, their wrong was not questioning what they were told, not examining what they were told. Question it means you bring it into doubt. Examine means you look into it. Why did they say this word to me? Is it true? If it's true, how can I apply to it? They neither question nor examine what they were told by society. Just follow what they were told by the parents, by school, everything. And when they end up with bad results as a result, guess what? Instead of admitting, okay, as a child, I have no choice. As a grown man, a grown woman, I do have a choice. So I should examine things. Instead of owning up to that, they now become scornful. And now, anytime you see other people going through something similar, they mock them or laugh at them just because they don't want to admit that they're just like that. Or when they see someone actually want to improve, they attempt to sabotage that individual, either by suggesting that something's wrong with them, or by trying to talk them into their addictions again, or whatever. What I'm saying is scornful people are embittered humans that are determined never ever to own up to their failure to examine things and to do what's best for themselves. Now, you cannot have scornful people around you and at the same time succeed in life. Let me repeat this one more time. And listen very well to what I'm saying. You cannot succeed in life anywhere, in any area, unless scornful people are evicted from your life. As long as you have scornful people over there, it will always revert back to misfortune. Listen, a scornful human being is automatically a worker of iniquity. So they facilitate the continuation of violence on the earth. They facilitate the continuation of evil on the earth. And they become portals that evil spirits use to work through and hold other people back to. They don't have to be aware that demons are using them. It's still happening. And they're still responsible for what the demons do through them, because they themselves that keep themselves in this bad condition that enable demons to be able to use them. So let's say now we have a demon of rage that entered into an individual. That individual ends up beating someone up into the hospital. Well, that human being already had a bitter, angry attitude. And that bitter, angry attitude is what gave that demon of rage opportunity to jump into them. And the thing is, when that individual suddenly felt this anger towards other individual, told me, why do you feel anger at this individual? What is wrong with me? If the individual would do that, even if the demon is inside of them, the demon couldn't do anything anymore. Only in rare occasions can demons take over a human body against human beings' will and do a lot of horrible stuff with the body, like you see in the Exorcist movies. What you see in the Exorcist movies is quite rare. That's an extreme form of demonic possession that's actually rare on the earth. Most common demon possession is when an unbeliever, because when believers cannot be possessed, they can only be oppressed by demons. So the most common form of demon possession is when a human being persists in a defect, and demons can use that defect to temporarily take over the human body and the human emotions to act out their agenda. But because human being is already part of that agenda, the demons are just advanced the agenda human being is already part of. So if someone gets upset and beats one up into the hospital, and later they are charged with assault, they cannot say in front of a judge, well, I was possessed, I didn't know what I was doing. No. The demon was around you for a while because you were already deep in darkness. You already had this desire or this longing to beat people up. The demon just facilitated what you wanted. Let's say you have a demon of lust that's possessing an unbeliever. No woman that's loose in the streets can say it's a demon of lust that took over my body and what I was doing. No. The demon of lust can only enter your body and make it easier for you to hold around and to delay some of the consequences of that sin. But the evil spirits cannot just jump into a body and spread your legs that all the men enter you. No. The only case when evil spirits take over a human body against the human being's will and they wreck the human being is when someone is a severe case of neglect or scapegoating. If someone has been severely neglected by everyone in the community, or if someone has been so atrociously mistreated and abused as a child, and as an adult can't even function mentally on their own, then the demons can totally take over their body if they're an unbeliever. And in this case, any judge will say, well, we can't hold this individual accountable. They have to go to a mental asylum. Why? Because even the judge, apart from the knowledge of evil spirits, can know this individual was totally damaged by the environment. They couldn't do anything for themselves anymore, even mentally. Those are the only cases, severe neglect or severe abuse, when they were little, that's the only time demons can fully just go and take full possession like that of human body. Most time it's not. But anyway, let's continue with the topic. You have to evict scornful people from your life. Look, sometimes people are scornful but never act the way towards you directly. Some scornful people are on good terms with you. They have no bad intentions towards you. However, it does change the fact they're not scornful. I mean, you can have a serial killer living next door. And serial killer wants to help you out with plumbing. The serial killer will ask how you're doing. So the serial killer is capable of doing good things. But just because he's doing good things towards you doesn't mean he's a good guy, because he's a serial killer. So evil people and also wasteful people can do good things. They can have a good attitude towards you, but it doesn't mean that they're good people because of that. They think it is, but it's not. Now listen. Scornful people are not people who have dark humor, joking about themselves just to cope with pain. That's not being scornful. Scornful does not mean having this type of humor where you make ridicule of yourself and life just a way to cope with stuff. I mean, it's not the best thing to do, but some people cope by having this type of dark humor towards themselves. Now, that's not scornful. That's just dark humor, and I don't even recommend the type of humor to begin with, because it doesn't help you to get ahead in life. It keeps you stuck. A scornful individual is someone who really made up their mind, no, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm not going to admit this. I'm not going to acknowledge what needs to be happen. I just want to be left alone. I want to continue, and people better shut their mouth up and let me be. That is a scornful individual. So anytime something happens that upsets them or triggers them, either they go in a full rage, escalating, or they just disappear. But they remember behind your back, whatever. Sometimes they don't remember behind your back, just disappear, they just ghost you. But here's the thing, when they're the ones doing things that bring this harm to the community, suddenly they're the victim. Suddenly it's the other people's problem, how they interpret it. So a scorner is not automatically a narcissist. However, most scorners quickly become reprobate. They do become narcissists. Are all narcissists scorners? To some extent, they are. But is every scorner a narcissist? No. But whether a scorner is a narcissist or not does not matter if they have a scornful attitude alone. So even if they're not actual scorners to the core, if they have a scornful attitude, I'm telling you, they have to be evicted from whatever you're doing, whatever you're involved with. Because as long as they're there, their very presence alone will delay things for you. Okay, let me tell you a story one time. There was a man that married, it's a man from Brazil, and he married this woman from China because he was into Chinese culture. He also watched Chinese movies, so he was into it since a kid. And when he grew up, he visited mainland China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, and he was quite impressed. And eventually, he fell in love with a Chinese woman that he met in college. She was from mainland China, and they got married. Okay, so the thing is, she gave birth to 3 beautiful babies for him. So they were married, have a family. But the thing is, this man, let's call him Jacob. Jacob always had health issues. And he could not understand why he had all these health issues. Thing is, because of the health issues, he was delayed in his career. There were some conferences he couldn't go to, some business he couldn't attend. So he realized, okay, these health issues are holding me and my family back financially. And I could have earned hundreds of thousands of dollars by now that I could have put in a savings for my children. But now my children will be harmed by this too, by me holding back. So Jacob really wanted to figure out what goes on over here. So Jacob and his wife were praying. Then, while we're praying, someone called them. And he picked up the phone and said, yeah. And it was his brother, James. And James was somewhere in Britain on a vacation. And James offered to pay a whole vacation just for his brother Jacob and his wife. So Jacob and his wife, and also their children, they went on a vacation to Norway for like 3 weeks. But the thing is, James had a condition: no social media, no smartphones. And they did. Now, James and his wife were not frequent users of social media anyway. They had accounts, but they barely did something with it. The children were too young to even think about social media. They didn't even care much about smartphones, the small children. So they just went there for 3 weeks in Norway, having a nice, good time together. When they were having a good time together, at some point the wife felt a bit like she had sleep paralysis. So Jacob prayed for her and it disappeared. When they returned back to Brazil, they found out that Jacob's father-in-law, so the father of his wife, fell down the stairs and he was in hospital. So, of course, they were worried, this and that. Eventually, the hospital let the man go and the man could recover at home. But the thing is, the father-in-law was in the hospital for 5 months. And those 5 months begin in the second week that James and his family, Jacob and his family were in Norway, having a nice vacation. In those 5 weeks, there were no health issues with Jacob. So when the father-in-law got out again, just within a few days after, Jacob had health issues again. And at that point, his brother, James, called him saying, yo, Jacob, I heard you had another episode. Can you have to go to the hospital? Yeah, man, it's so horrible. And James told me, yo, Jacob, I'm going to be very blunt with you right now. You need to cut ties with your father-in-law. And Jacob thought, what? Man, that's the father of my wife, you all. I mean, my wife lost her dad. Her dad's always been supportive for all of that. And James told her, brother, Jacob, listen to me, man. I'm not your enemy. I'm your brother in Christ. I'm also your brother by birth. We came from the same womb. I'm telling you, man, you need to cut ties with your father-in-law. And then Jacob said, okay, but tell me why. And then James told him, yo, Jacob, remember a while back when I offered you to come to go on this vacation to Norway without any smartphones, all of that? Yeah, man, it was amazing, man. When did your father-in-law go to the hospital? It was in the second week that we were there. Okay, so while you guys were having a great time in Norway, as a family, he suddenly had this accident, fell off the stairs. He broke his leg so badly to stay in the hospital for 4 months. Okay, when you and your wife were in Norway, she had sleep paralysis at some point. She was shaking, screaming in her sleep and all that, right? Yeah, James, happened one time. Okay, what was the day that happened? It was on September the 21st. Okay, when did your father-in-law had his accident? It happened on September. And then Jacob remained silent. And James said, you understand? The same day. So you guys arrive in Norway, have a great time as a family. You guys in a state of joy, all of that. Yeah, you suffered no health issues for the first week. Second weekend is in, suddenly your wife had sleep paralysis. And later, once you come back from the vacation, you find out that your father-in-law fell off the stairs in a very horrible way. Okay. So now when this out of the hospital, just 3 days later, you have a health issue again. I'm sorry to say, but you're a grown man. You should connect the dots over here. You need to cut ties with your father-in-law. So Jacob hangs up and discusses with his wife. And the wife was saying, darling, how dare your brother say that about my dad? My dad is an amazing father. He's this and that. Oh. And the wife couldn't shut up how good her father was. So Jacob remained quiet about it, but the wife did agree, okay, we're going not allow him to come to our house that often. We're going to lower the phone calls, all of that. She agreed to that. And what do you behold? When they at least limited contact with the father-in-law, the health issues did not come, remained at bay. But here's the thing, when the contact with the father-in-law declined, the father-in-law now had intense nightmares and a lot of things went wrong. And not only with the father-in-law, there were more relatives of the wife that also began to suffer all types of mental health issues out of the blue. And the wife got creeped out thinking, what goes on over here? Long story short, eventually the wife filed for divorce. Now you may ask yourself, why did she file for divorce? Here's why. This woman did not want to admit that her own father was a scorner, that was even scorning her marriage and her husband. She also didn't want to admit that there were more relatives of her scorning her. So she used to be the scapegoat when she was a child, but because she was just a child, she couldn't realize that people were just dumping their adult shit onto her. Now as a grown woman, she can clearly see that she wasn't treated well by her family when she was growing up, but she doesn't want to admit it nor acknowledge it. She's in denial. Even when it became clear that a scornful attitude caused spiritual damage to her husband, affecting his health, even though she saw a clear link, anytime it went better with her and her husband, her family members declined, she did not want to admit the situation. So eventually, she began to blame her husband and all that, because she didn't want to own up to it. What's going on over here? This woman was a worker of iniquity. She used to be a victim as a scapegoat, but as an adult, she could realize, you know what, I don't have to deal with these toxic family members of mine. I can move on beyond them. But her choice was to deny what's going on and to act like everything was fine. And she married this man from Brazil who was into their culture. They started a family. However, misfortune became the norm. Why? Because of the scornful attitude for relatives. And she was the enabler that facilitated all the psychic violence to hit her husband. Okay, divorce happened. And Jacob, after his wife divorced him, suddenly got all these business deals came out of the blue. Way too many business, couldn't even handle all the business deals. Long story short, he became a multi-millionaire. And he married another woman who became a great stepmom to his children and who was even more supportive of him. It's only when he married his second wife, who was glad to become a stepmom of his children from his previous marriage. And she also had a baby of them two together. It's only when he encountered her that he realized how horrible his first marriage was and realized how much was held back. Now, this is an example of a scornful individual bring harm to those around them. Now, the ex-wife of Jacob in this case was not a scorner herself. She was an enabler of those who were scornful. She was a worker of iniquity. Now, it should be obvious to you, as long as Jacob was married to this worker of iniquity, there was no hope ever of him breaking through financially. If he stayed with her, they would have grown old together in financial struggles and died in those struggles. Because the brother of Jacob was a strong believer in the faith, decided to intervene. That's why the marriage fell apart. And that was the rescue of both Jacob and those three children. One of the children became an engineer, and because Jacob now had all the fortune to finance his own son, the son didn't have to go to investors in the world to get investment. He didn't get any loan, anything like that. And the company that the son built became a blessing to many people. So what I'm saying is, both Jacob and his children were better off when the marriage fell apart. Why? Because she was a worker of iniquity. Let me give another story to you. There was this pop singer from Japan. This Japanese pop singer, he was also known outside of Japan. Okay? And my God, he was known in Korea. In Korea, he collaborated with K-pop artists, so he also did K-pop also, but he made a lot of cash and he invests a lot of it into charities, all of that. So well-known individual. So you have some people that go to his concert. They have a meet and greet. It was so great. And one day, a year later, those three fans went to the meet and greet with his celebrity. Now decided, let's visit his hometown. I mean, surely people worldwide know about this guy. And we met him. He's a very kind man. So, hey, let's go to his hometown. Because they assumed people in his hometown are proud that this man became this famous Japanese pop artist with a good attitude towards people. They thought this is a quality man out there that a lot of people love in the world. So they went to his hometown. They even found the exact neighborhood where he grew up, the school, everything. When they arrived and they mentioned his name, people just walked away. Or people acted like they know what they were talking about. They even went to one of the cafes where he used to work 5 years ago, before he broke through as an artist. The same manager was there. Some of the people who worked there were still there, but nobody even knew. Nobody knew who he was. When they're about to go to another cafe to get some coffee, there was an off-duty police officer that approached them and said, "Konnichiwa," and he spoke English. Are you tourists who were asking about this celebrity, the J-pop artist? Yeah, we are. And then he tells, listen, I'm an off-duty police officer. This is my badge. There's been some complaints about you that you're causing trouble in the neighborhood by partying a lot or screaming in the streets, all of that. And the three stores were thinking, oh, us screaming in the streets? What? And the police officer told them, listen, don't worry. We checked CCTV footage, everything. You guys were never screaming, nothing like that. Let me tell you what you guys should do now. You should leave this place as soon as possible. Just go to any part of Japan. Japan is very big. Then one day asked him, officer, what goes on? We didn't do anything wrong. And also, listen, it's not that you guys did anything wrong. That man, that celebrity, I went to school with that guy. He was one class higher than me. Okay? I knew him. Back in the day, he was just a regular guy. And he was kind too at the time. But people looked down on him. A lot. Even some of the teachers did. Nobody expected him to amount to anything. His dad also was an ex-convict, an alcoholic, all of that. So people just assumed nothing good would come from him. And when he attempted to sing or write songs, people often ridiculed him and all of that. And I'm telling you, the moment he started his own YouTube channel, people thought, ha ha ha, whatever. When he reached 1,000 subscribers, suddenly a lot of people in the neighborhood began to look a bit annoyed and frustrated. When he reached 15,000 subscribers, and suddenly he got record deals, all of that, domestic violence increased in this place. A lot of people moved out, business went bankrupt. And ever since, nobody even mentioned the guy's name over here. Why? Because the whole place over here was invested against that guy. And now the guy succeeded, despite them giving him a big no, that's now is haunting them mentally. They feel violated by his breakthrough, because his breakthrough comes after they clearly said no to his influence. That they were not interested. But now they're faced with his influence every day, whether they like it or not, and it bothers them mentally and emotionally. And all the stress they're taking out to one another over here. The three tourists were silent. And the police officer told, I'm off duty now. You're not under arrest, no confiscation, for your own safety. Just leave this place and don't mention the guy's name anymore. And three tourists left. Now, in those two stories I've given to you, it becomes clear that once the scorners are proven wrong, so when their negative expectations or when their refusals are overruled, they can't handle it. They really can't handle it. They turn to violence. They become desperate in a violent way. They may go down the street and randomly look for fights with people and knock people out, or stab people out of the blue, or do a mass shooting, whatever. That's how dangerous scorners are. Now, most scorners will not explode like that openly because they have a job or they have a family and they don't want to lose any of that, but they will still carry this bitter impact with them. Maybe at your job where you work, things keep breaking down. The computer breaks down, the printer breaks down, the accidents happening at the escalator. So you have all this electronic malfunctioning happening over there. One day, one of your colleagues leaves, he finds another job, and suddenly all of it stops. Why? That colleague that was over there, most likely, he either was a work of iniquity that carried misfortune with him, or he was a scorner himself, and his heavy, wasteful impact damaged the environment. Look, if you have to go to a car mechanic to fix your car, and the car mechanic is a scorner, he's not scorning towards you. You're not his target. He's still a scorner, but okay, you go to him for the car. You're very polite, thankful, you leave. If you have to go to a medical doctor who's a scorner, okay, you go there to get your medical treatment, you leave. You thank them, that's okay. If you have to take a class from a professor that's a scorner, behave yourself, stay calm, get your good grade, and leave. What I'm saying is, when you're dealing with a scorner, you have to take care of yourself by wanting what's best for you. You should be concerned with your own well-being, y'all. And too many of you are not really concerned with your own well-being. Just go through life, going through the motions, expecting others to love you, and rely on the affection and the sympathy from others. Don't be like that, y'all. No. Don't be codependent like that. I'm telling you. Don't argue with a scorner, because that may trigger them to explode. Do not negotiate with them. Just peacefully avoid involvement with them as much as possible. You can pray for them from a distance, walk off towards them from a distance, but don't walk off with them, and do not live in the same house with them. If you're living in the same unit with a scorner, get another job, do whatever you have to do to get out of there, y'all. I'm telling you, because that will not go well. Some people end up missing out on their destiny. They end up declining and die before the time because they were around the scorner. Now, workers of iniquity are similar to scorners. The thing is, the scorner is a bit more dangerous. The thing is, the scorner is a work of iniquity too. But a scorner is a type of work of iniquity that is a direct, instant danger with you because their very presence already causes bad things to happen. A work of iniquity may be somewhere, and the presence will only have a light, annoying impact at the very best. So you can bypass a common work of iniquity. But a scorner, you cannot bypass that. You actually need to have them gone. So I'm not saying a common work of iniquity is okay to deal with. No, absolutely not. What I'm saying is, if you have to deal with the work of iniquity, you can still shield yourself a bit from the destruction. But with the work of iniquity, there's no shielding. The only when you're involved with them. Only shielding is not being involved with them, y'all. I'm telling you. Let me read again what it says in the book of Proverbs. Let me mention again what it says in the book of Proverbs. Chapter 22, verse 10. Cast out the scorner, and content shall go out. Yes, strife and reproach shall cease. Okay? It's clear. So you know what to do in your life. Drive out the scorner. Do not engage with them. Don't make excuses for them. And please, if a scorner leaves you, celebrate and move on. Be at peace.